Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us so early. Definitely wanted to give these time slots some different time opportunities for those who are in different time zones. So we'll just give it a few more minutes for everyone to join us. All right, I think that's all we're going to have for right now. So we'll get going. Good morning, everyone. My name is Tammy Bartlett. I'm Vice President of Government Affairs for Student Veterans America, and I'm here today with Faisal. Introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, good morning. Wednesday. Happy Wednesday, everyone. My name is Faisal Solomon, and I'm the Permanent Legal Fellow at Student Veterans of America.
And this is our second webinar on Washington Week 101. So this is going to build off of last week's. So if you were not on last week, feel free to go back and watch that slide deck presentation. It kind of gives you the ins and outs, but we'll do a quick review of last week, and then Faisal will go ahead and build upon for us. So today's agenda, we're going to have a quick review, and then Faisal's going to go into preparing for your meetings. And even though it does say our 2025 policy priorities, we're still kind of ironing them out. So bear with us. So schedule events for Washington Week. So this year it's going to look a little different. Last year was a Tuesday through Thursday. This year it's a Sunday through Wednesday. And this year also, we really want to connect with you all and make sure that you're making those meetings and that you're prepared for those meetings and you feel comfortable attending those meetings and the follow-ups happening also. So that's why we're having these webinars, really to go deep dive into things and help you guys with your own advocacy efforts. So everything's starting Sunday, amplifying SBA's voice. And so pretty much we're going to be meeting and going over policy priorities, a little thicker in the weeds, go through our talking points that your government affairs team will have prepared for you. And on those talking points, we'll have some list of bills that were introduced the previous year that we still want to continue to support and maybe need some sponsorship and co-sponsorship going forward in this new Congress. Monday and Wednesday, we ask that you make those meetings on the Hill to inform the Hill about student veterans and our needs and our mission, not only of the organization, but you back on your campus in your community. What's your best practices? What barriers are you facing? We're hoping that that's what you get to discuss during those meetings. Monday evening, there'll be a Washington Week reception. We're looking for a location on the Hill, so that's kind of like TBD, but we'll keep you informed along the way. Tuesday is when the joint hearings will happen between the Senate and the House Veteran Affairs Committees, where veteran serving organizations like ourselves get the opportunity to present our policy priorities for the year. Then in the afternoon, we're going to have a network on the Hill, very similar to last year. We'll get to all combine and join up there at We the Pizza and get to talk about what's been going on over the last 2 days from Sunday up until Tuesday afternoon. Tuesday evening, we're going to have an HQ reception and tour of your new SBA headquarters here in DC. I will say the location is pretty cool, across the street from the White House, definitely in the downtown area where everything happens. And then again, like I said, Wednesday, we ask that you use that day again to go ahead and form the Hill. Make those meetings, make those connections, and continue those conversations past Washington Week. So how do you schedule a meeting? Well, if you don't know who your member of Congress is, you can easily go to this website, plug in your address, and it will show you your representative and your two senators. And from there, you can go onto the member's website or onto the Senate and the House website and look up those members and find out the easiest way to connect with them, to send out an email requesting to schedule a meeting. And so in that email and last week's presentation, we also included an example of the type of email you'd want to send out with your name, your address, the school that you attend, so that shows that you're a constituent of their district or their state. And what we do like to discuss about SBA's policy priorities. Like I said, our 2025s are still being ironed out, but feel free to look back on 2024. And then the dates you can meet. Like I said, March 3rd, March 5th are your best dates to make that happen. It's up to you if you want to stay in DC later and try to have a Thursday or Friday meeting, but we're really pushing for those Monday and Wednesday. And then let's say you sent that email and it's been a few days and you haven't heard anything back. Feel free to follow up with a phone call. You want to call their DC office and exactly what your email will say, who you are, that's your constituent. You're looking to make a meeting with a member or a member of staff that deals with veteran issues and try to get that set up. And like I said, recognize that you may not be able to actually make a meeting with the member, but it will be a staff member who has the portfolio of veteran and maybe military issues also. If they ask you for a virtual meeting, that's fine too. But keep in mind, those virtual meetings best might be utilized after Washington Week. Use your time in DC to actually make those face-to-face meetings. And so Faisal's going to walk you through of, okay, now you've made those meetings, let's prepare yourself a little bit more. How to understand who that member of Congress is that you're meeting with or the staff member. Um, Easy Google search will help with that too. You want to make sure you make those connections in those conversations. So if they're a veteran, that will help you out in those conversations because then you won't have to so deeply explain what the GI Bill is. You'll be able to use some of our acronyms that we've had in our community, right? And we'll just help those conversations go a little easier. Um, See where they went to school. Maybe they went to the same school that you're attending right now. That way you have that connection and they understand that, you have the connection to both of you and it'll be easier to discuss along the way. And so I'm going to have Faisal go ahead and take over and he's going to help you search out your member of Congress a little more, kind of like give you some little ins and outs, little tips and tricks that you can keep in your preparation for those meetings to help in those conversations. Go ahead, Faisal.
Thank you, Tammy. Just following up on the connection point that you're wanting to build with your Congress member. Um, so in addition to like figure out like where they went to college, where you and also bring up where you went to college if you guys went to the same one. The point of my slides and also just a quick Google research would just be like just diving into what they're doing now. So you could help find their committee assignments, see what committees they're on. Maybe they're on the Veteran Affairs Committee, maybe they're on the Educations Committee, maybe they're on the Appropriations Committee. That could also be very important. Um, for those that don't know, the Appropriations Committee, they're the committee that decides how much funding each authorized federal government agency gets on the yearly budget. Um, Later on in the presentation, I'll be showing you a member on there. We're going to navigate how to find your member of Congress. So as Tammy said, you'll follow the links on the slide before, and you will enter in your address. For me, I live in the Tysons Corner area. So that pulled up my representative for this, my district, and also the two senators. Now, to click that, that's my district, that's my representative. I'm going to click him. Then it's going to take me to this web page where it shows me a map of the area that he governs. And it also tells me that like these are the committees that are on this spot. So I would take that to his web page. And if you scroll a bit down, it tells me the bills that he's voted on in the past. But also tells me the committees right there in the bottom. And those are the bills that he voted on in the past. I'm going to do a quick little Google search of one of the committees. Here would be sorry. That would be the committee and it will take me to the page on community and oversight and governmental affairs. Now, at the top, you would want to look for the committee members, and you could navigate that through the drop downs above. In addition, uh, you can also navigate the subcommittees that each committee has. Now, subcommittees can be different topics. As you can see, Doge is at the bottom. But we're going to go towards the community website, and this is where you could find all the members. Now, um, there are other ways to do that. That is a very two-step process, but that is just one of the ways you can do it. You can also find the bills that a member has sponsored or co-sponsored right from the congressional webpage. Now, to do that, you would change the drop down at the top from Last Congress to Member, and then you would enter in a representative that you're wanting to do more research on. In this case, I'm going to be doing research on Representative Mike Levin out of California. It will take me to the same page. It will take me to his website, and then I'm going to scroll a little bit down. Now, on the left side, there's a set of filters. Currently, the filters, these are all the bills that Representative Mike Levin has supported or has sponsored or co-sponsored in his time in Congress, and he's been around here since 2019. So it's pulling over 1,000 bills, and you're not expected to talk about all 1,000 bills in the 30 minutes that you have. You're primarily going to be focused on sessions 118 and 119, which just started this year. Now, again, here are the filters. And as you can see, those are sponsored legislation and this co-sponsored. Now, if you're a sponsor of a piece of legislation, you are like one of the main ones that originally pitched it. And here it shows that I believe it's 101. And then at the bottom, there's another filter of what congressional session we're at. Here, we're going to click sponsor legislation. And here it shows that there are 101 pieces of legislation that he has sponsored within the last 2 years. But you could see that only 3 of them were in the 119th session, and then the remaining 98 were in the 118th. Now we're gonna add the session of 119 to see what bills he has sponsored this year, and it'll pull them up over here. Now, say for example, none of the bills that interest you are in the 119th session, and you want to go back to the 118th. You could click X out of the filters at the top, or the one on the side. Just uncheck those boxes, and it will take you back to the other page. Or you can also just click back on your browser, and that will take you to other piece of legislation. Now, you can also apply the other filter that will tell you what bills is co-sponsored by clicking here. That will pull up a new set of search results based on that filter. And that's the current filter of Mike Levin, 119th session, and co-sponsored. Now, I know that was a lot of information, and you're probably wondering, what am I even looking at when you pull up a search result? So this is a little breakdown of the respective bill, and this one is a chart that I little made. That little box circle, HR, I think it's, I cannot read the number from here, I'm sorry. That tells you your House resolution or Senate bill number. This portion of the text shows you what session of Congress that bill was introduced. This text is a brief purpose of the bill. This box is the sponsor number of the sponsor representative or the number of co-sponsors. This text tells you what committee that bill has been assigned to. This is the last action of the bill, whether it's been recommended by the referred from one committee to another. It tells you there. And at the very bottom, there's a visual tracker. I personally don't find this part very useful. I think if you click into the bill itself, you'll find more information in more detail. So we're going to do that. I'm going to click the bill, and it is HR 1106 to amend the Competes Act. The full title is at the top. Now, all the information on the last page is here, and on the side is a little CBO score. That is a score of the Congressional Budget Office, and that is an estimate made and tells you how much a particular bill cost. Um, so currently, if I click that bill, it will tell me one of two things, or most likely three. One, that this bill doesn't cost anything, because that hasn't been submitted yet to the Congressional Budget Office. Two, it will tell you a cost, um, and that cost is it will take you to another PDF document which breaks it down. And then the third one, I believe it tells you it just hasn't. It's like in processing still, but this one does not have uh, a cost yet because it hasn't been processed. But here, I would tell you to scroll down, and it breaks everything down to more detail. It will tell you the bill text, if there's any bill text, um, if it's been uploaded to the site yet, and it tells you what changes or recommendations that piece of legislation has. If you click the actions, it will break down the actions from the date it was introduced, also to even when, if you click on the co-sponsor side, it tells you when the bill was sponsored and what dates the co-sponsors have also signed on to. But that's essentially how you're going to be navigating congress.gov and to find your member and also find the piece of legislation that they supported. Google will take you here, entering in the search into the search bar, or even just navigating from our slide deck itself. And these slide decks will be provided to you at the end of the presentation.
Faisal, can you go back to the previous slide real quick?
Yeah.
So I also wanted to add, so many of these bills, since we're in a new Congress, are being reintroduced. And so in the summary, that might not be up just yet. And just like this bill here, the text isn't available yet. So it takes a few days once that bill is dropped into the hopper for it to get the text up on congress.gov. Feel free to play around on this website. You can sign up for yourself with your own email address onto this website, and you can set up alerts. If you want to go back just one more slide, so you can see where just below the bill name, it says get alerts. So if there's a bill that you're really interested in and you want to know when another co-sponsor comes up or when there's going to be a hearing or some other action on it, by signing up to congress.gov and then hitting the get alerts, it will produce emails for you letting you know any movement on that piece of legislation. Also, in addition, in the actions, often if the bill has gone to a hearing, it will have like a direct link to the hearing where you can see who testified. Sometimes the YouTube link is in there so you can watch it. Sometimes there's other supporting documents from organizations, the written testimonies and the statement for records and the witnesses themselves. So it's a lot of information and it's a great opportunity to play around with it. In related bills, so let's know we have an HR bill that we're SBA is really trying to push forward, but now you're meeting with a senator. And so you want to know if the Senate has a companion bill to that. If you hit on related bills, and if there is one, the companion bill will show up right there. That way, when you walk into the senator's office, you can ask for support of S whatever number versus HR whatever number, because they're going to look at you a little funny because they're going to have to like figure out now if there is a Senate companion. So do the work for them, really come in there prepared and ready to go. Like Faisal said, not every bill has a CBO score. Oftentimes we'll see CBO scores popping up on pieces of legislation because there is movement in that legislation. Congress wants to know how much it's going to cost to pass that piece of legislation. So that's usually where we see a forward movement on the CBO score. Um, and something I wanted to go back to earlier when Faisal, when you were going through and you had the member up, and you were looking at the different sponsorship and co-sponsorships, if you all would like scroll down further on that, let's say your only in particular interest is a piece of legislation that is through the Veteran Affairs Committee. You can, it is further down on that screen once you get on congress.gov, but you can filter through the committee of the piece of legislation that's been moved forward. So let's say you're meeting with a member like Mike Levin, who's no longer on the House Veteran Affairs Committee, but you're going in there talking about veterans issues and you want to know what he supported in the past or what he's had interest in the past. It's easy to go on there and click the committee, and then they'll filter all those bills that he's co-sponsored and sponsored that has any type of linkage to the Veteran Affairs Committee. Also keep in mind, the Committee on Means and Employment and Workforce and Education. So there's other committees that also have great interest to student veterans. And while we're on talking about bills, you know, going back and looking at the 118th, it will give you an opportunity to actually say thank you to your member of Congress if they supported a piece of legislation that SVA has tried to push forward in the past. It's great to come in there and say, instead of ask, but to come in there with some gratitude and thank you. Large package that passed in the 118th was the Elizabeth Dole package. So S141. It's great to come in there and say, thank you for co-sponsoring this. Thank you for voting for it, for going forward. This is going to help student veterans with vet tech and electronic transcripts and electronic financials for those who are studying abroad for their MHA versus the paper checks that they've been dealing with. You know, just accreditations that are going so much smoother down due to modernization. And something I should have mentioned in the very beginning too, keep an eye out if your member is a freshman. If this is their first few months, they're only been in their office for a few days, and you know, their staff may have been senior staff before in another office, but understand that they're freshmen. This is also new to them too. So try to give a little grace and understand where they're coming from and help them build up on who we are as SBA and why we're there and why we're there to talk to them. So keeping that in mind. And lastly, I think I just wanted to mention, you know, going onto the members' website, like I mentioned before, will also show you some of their press releases. You know, that will also give you a wide range of what their interests are, what they've done back in their communities, how they voted in DC, what they deem as priorities for their office. So again, it helps in those conversations and in those meetings that you'll have with their staff. I think that's all I needed to add. But Faisal did a great job. And so the SBA government affairs staff, we are working hard to make specific meetings on the Hill during Washington Week. And it is with some of the leaders of the Senate and House Veteran Affairs Committee, both on the ranking member and the chair, and then also in the economic opportunity. One more, go right back. There you go. Thanks. But then also with the Senate and the House leadership, with the whips and the leaders that are on both sides of the chambers. If you are a constituent of one of these members and you are coming to DC, please let the SBA Government Affairs staff know. We are working hard on getting meetings set up, and we would like you to join us for those meetings. There's no reason for both entities to be working on establishing meetings when we can all get one together. And then Faisal, our information is right there. So we'll take any questions anyone will have. Mackenzie, if you can help us out with the chat or.
I think Kim raised her hand.
Is it okay if we kind of just
Sorry.
fire off questions, or do you want them in the chat?
Faisal, you muted.
If yeah, you guys could just fire them off, and if you want to put them in the chat, you can put them in the chat as well. So, Kim.
Yeah, I just want to mention that you also have a governmental relations person at your university, and that's what we do in Virginia. We partner with, I'm from Old Dominion, we partner with Virginia Commonwealth, Virginia Tech, UVA also, and we all go together. And I think that makes our voice stronger, but it also allows our governmental relations person to set up the meetings for us. So that helps too. And they also are very familiar with the legislation there and they can help guide us. So that was something that I just wanted to put out there because we've done it for 3 years now and it's been very successful for us.
Great to hear that, Kim. Yeah, that was brought up at the last meeting. Yeah, connect with your government affairs office there at your universities, because they've already had these connections and be a great way to have it in. But then also, if you're very passionate in advocacy, learn from another individual some of their additional tips and tricks of having a meeting and the follow up that occurs afterwards.
I do have a question in the chat.
Sophia asked, what do we recommend for DC residents? The rep is mostly symbolic, and are we able to visit other offices?
Good question, Sophie. Yeah, DC is kind of like one of those odd, just like the territories, where they do have a member there, and highly recommend that you meet with her. She's a pretty awesome lady, but also feel free to make friends and join in other office meetings, especially if that member has supported a bill or something that you're very passionate about.
Just a story of the delegate from DC. A couple months ago, SVA was asked to go help TAPS, the Tragedy Assistance Program. Well, I don't remember what that stands for. I'm sorry. Survivors. Thank you. And I actually had a meeting with the DC office, and it was me and a fellow couple members from TAPS, and we asked them about several pieces of legislation, and they immediately took it back to her office within the next like 20 minutes after we were done, and they came back to us. No, we didn't know about this piece of legislation. We're going to immediately co-sponsor it, and that was within 30 minutes of the meeting. So even though like you're meeting with a delegate or someone from the territories, does not mean that they are not impactful. So please meet with them or anyone.
Hey, I just had two quick questions. Can you hear me? I'm sorry. So is there a list of people who have confirmed that they will be attending in Washington, and are they broken up by state so that we can figure out like so I'm from Massachusetts. I'm in Boston. There's several SVA chapters at all the different Boston schools, but I have no idea if anyone else is going down to Washington from Boston or who those people might be. Is there a list so that we can kind of get together beforehand and start strategizing how we're going to divide and conquer with the meetings?
I might be able to answer that one. So we don't have a list per se of everyone who is going. However, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop John Morris's information into the chat, and he is your regional person, your success coach that can help guide you through it and put you in contact with those other chapters that might be going.
Thank you very much. And then also, as far as guidance on specific bills that SVA wants us to be addressing with our representatives, are those going to be sent out beforehand? And I know you said that the agenda isn't really finalized yet. When can we expect to have those so we can do our prep?
Sure. Like I said, policy priorities are being ironed out. If you're looking for bill specific and you want to do some digging yourself, feel free to look back at pieces of legislation that SVA testified in the 118th. But we hope to have this out to you at least a week ahead of time, if not 2 weeks ahead of time, because we understand the preparation that goes into these meetings. And we want to make sure that you guys are set up for success.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, like Mackenzie said, she dropped John's information there, but let's say you're just one person coming from your campus, but you're coming from a state like Illinois. So there may be other schools from Illinois also coming. So as you chat with your regional coaches this week, and leading up to Washington week, make mention, hey, I'm going to Washington week, but I'm going by myself. Is there anyone else from the state who's also attending that I can connect with beforehand? So we make just those 2 Senate meetings versus like 8 Senate meetings to the same 2 senators. So next week's webinar, like I said, will help build upon this a little bit. We do just have only 2 webinars left. So one of them will be definitely a deep dive into our policy priorities. And another one, we're hoping to bring a cameo of someone who can talk about storytelling. So now that you've set up your meeting, you looked into your member, you've done some of your homework on that, you're aware of SBA's policy priorities and legislation we want to push forward. So now how do you take all those pieces and craft it into a conversation, craft it into a story, to let that staffer and that member know who you all are, from the campuses that you come from and the communities you come from, and really leave with an impact. So we're looking forward to the rest of our webinars. Faisal, is there anything else you want to add, or Mackenzie?
No, nothing from my end. And again, if you are a representative constituent of any of these states, please reach out to the government affairs team. Tammy and I, and our information is on the next slide. And again, these slide decks will be provided to you all shortly.
I don't have anything else on my end. I will put my email down here in case anyone does have any questions about their region success coaches, so that you can get in contact with me and I'll get you to the right person.
Yeah, and I just want to lastly, mention this is a great time to, start setting up those meetings, making those connections, and then also, if you haven't done so, um, get set up for your lodging and your travel here to DC. Be mindful. We kind of leave that up to you all. So DC is easily navigated through our metro system. So if something downtown doesn't quite fit your price point or just not available, maybe look at something that is close to a metro stop that will at least bring you into downtown, and up on the hill. And that's all I got. Thanks you all for joining us here on this Wednesday morning.
Thank you all.